identifying a significant need for additional criteria infrastructure upgrades in their system. It was predicted the substation would be oversaturated during peak load periods, which have been resulting in blackouts and brownouts in the area. So essentially, National Grid put out the NWA RFP, which would requesting for solar storage solutions to help replace the cost of replacing the substation transformer at the substation located on Coffee Street. So essentially, we developed the solar A+ storage specifically for the best needs just to National Grid's request for the substation. So as I said before, it was released in 2018. This has been a 3-year process working with National Grid for the solutions in front of them. They're going through the utility interconnection studies. We had to actually change our point of interconnection to the south to the grid being sold on Coffee Street. So by connecting our system with solar storage, we're projecting and estimating ratepayers in National Grid estimates saving of 20% over that term of the agreement. Because essentially National Grid is now replacing the substation transformer.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, it's an estimated 20% cost savings to ratepayers over the life of the agreement by us installing a storage facility and discharging to the grid, and then National Grid calls on us instead of them replacing the substation transformer themselves. I will pause there. I was going to get into a little bit of how it works and kind of how the contract is. Any questions?
So each of these projects is 3.5 megawatts AC?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and they both have storage.
Both systems have storage.
Are you receiving any transition credits or community adders as part of the projects from NYSERDA?
Yeah, so the solar portion of the project is still being treated as community solar. We submit both these projects to the New York Sun, and they were awarded in the program that just opened. So they'll still be treated as community solar projects. They still offer the 10 to 15% discount, an anchor discount to a counter, local business for it. And regarding the storage, we've entered a contract with National Grid for raise the set rate will be paying us to dispatch. Unfortunately, there's still no incentive for storage in the state of New York through NYSERDA. That's why you don't see storage in the project. So to make this project financially feasible, we entered into a contract with National Grid. Will pay us a certain rate when we discharge, when they call and ask to discharge. Other than that, we haven't received any incentive on the storage side of things, just solar.
Okay, I asked about the transition credit and the community adder because if they ever resolve the lawsuit and the state fixes their valuation model, those are important factors within the current model. So do you know what that number is, whether it's community adder or transition credit? Most I've seen have been like 2.25 cents a kilowatt.
Sorry, I'm talking about the storage. So there's nothing for storage currently.
I'm talking about the solar part of the project. I'm not really concerned about I realize there's no incentives on storage at this time. I just wondered if there were any additional incentives on the community solar side.
And so we submitted it to the Mexico Sun program, which is the megawatt block, and the adder. So the typical the program is exactly the same as it was previously. And through time, I'm trying to put a new program in place, but currently it's the same exact program that was previously megawatt block and adder. This project will not receive any new additional adders because the interconnection study was where they will cut off the additional adders.
Okay.
So just for this, we're now learning the process, how to interplay with this. So this is still a community solar project. You've got the storage that's coming back from National Grid. So that means the community solar, you can't sell it over 40% to the commercial. So it's 40% going to National Grid, which is then being stored. Is that where the power is coming from for National Grid?
Well, So we are still, it's almost two separate projects in a way, if you look at it. We're still powering, and I apologize for that, storage here, COVID, so, it's just me taking it for the team today, so solar will be treated just like a regular community solar program, we'll still discharge directly to the grid, with solar active storage is gonna build up. We'll still offer the, 10% discount to residents, if 40% of it came to an angel, if that's not going to national grid. Currently, we actually have this as a fully residential community solar project. The non-res alternative piece is with national grid, let's say during peak hours during the summertime, calls on us and says, hey, we know it's gonna be 100 degrees tomorrow, everyone's gonna flip on their air conditioners, we need you guys to discharge onto the grid. They call on us and we discharge onto the grid to minimize those blackouts and brownouts that the town is possibly going to see more of in the future, and I know it's already experiencing this small conflict or northern lights flickering slightly. You'll tend to see that when the turn lights on in the morning or in the afternoon when you come home from work because the grid is saturated right now. And the current transformer at the substation, while it can handle it currently, the increase in business and residential housing and just in general in Watertown has caused a huge strain on the substation.
Okay, so the power you're storing, you release when needed, that power is not coming from your project, it's coming off the grid to store for national grid, so they need it.
No, we are still charging the storage from the solar facility. But we're still treating it as a community solar, so it'll get charged up by the solar, right? And then the solar to go onto the grid. So both are happening at the same time. No problem, sorry.
Any other questions? All your answers are consistent whether it's a south side or north side project, correct? They're both.
I'm really sorry, that was really broken up. What was that?
So you've explained the projects, we can consider your answers are similar for both projects, south and.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we feel like why they're split projects and not one, or typical community solar is because the program limits us to 5 megawatt DC, so we have to go through, splitting the projects, splitting the application and everything, and then everything that goes with it to meet national grids demand. When they put out the RFP, they had certain megawatt hours that we had stored in storage, and the 85 megawatt AC facility was not large enough to dispatch enough energy to cover what national grid was looking for. So that's why we split the project into two.
I have no further questions. Does anybody else have any questions? All your permits are in place from the town of Watertown, correct?
Sorry, say that again?
All your permits from the town of Watertown are in place?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. The permits, so has been submitted to commissioning, bonds have been issued, there's no outstanding, permits left on the property.
You want me to talk a different way? David, do you know, has the proposed pilot schedule been shared with the developer? Dave,
Yeah, what did you say, Paul?
has the proposed pilot schedule been shared with the developer?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It'll basically be our typical pilot structure where we do the 500 megawatt. Unless we change it, these kind of changes. Our typical, we do 500 megawatt, that's there 15 years, and then we bring in a schedule, so they've seen on the other products they've done on us.
Great, so Dave, just, sorry, it's really broken, you said 5,500 per megawatt, 2%, and you guys still want the inverted schedule, correct, for the school?
Yes, still very good.
For the school and the
We
county?
invert the whole payment schedule, so we calculate that 3% annual, 15 years.
There's
Right,
not,
sorry, I said for schools, because that's what initially triggered that
So
way
we
back
did-
then, yeah.
We collect everybody in that same.
Yeah. Absolutely.
currently, there's nothing for the town, but if the school ended up having, if the town ended up having a tax rate in 4 years, they get a distribution out of this pilot. So currently, they don't have a tax rate, so that wouldn't happen.
Have we discussed under the UTEP how the, per megawatt charge will be applied for the storage aspects?
That's what we need to look at.
Yeah, that was my question as well, Justin.
If the per megawatt AC storage capacity matches the per megawatt AC output for the installation for both of them, we should probably take a look at how that should be addressed and reflected in the payment schedule.
I'm confused.
So
We,
5,500 is just for the solar portion.
Yes.
our proposed schedule has an amount, an adder in for the battery storage of $1,259. That's consistent with what we've done in the other projects with battery storage, Marshall or Dave.
Yeah, we haven't had many projects with battery storage, but we did, I think that person did the way up, we had, one factor, considering it, so putting their provision when they're kicking in, that increased, I don't know, I forget the exact number about in front of me, but when they activated the battery storage, it actually increased the amount of power.
I know in the past, we've had conversations, again, even when we first started this, a few years ago, I know that 7,500 megawatt was the proposed solar plus storage. I know a lot of things have changed, but, I think that's what we were previously.
One of the things we're unsure about is how the state's valuation model, currently that doesn't include any valuation for, for battery storage. So the guidance we have is minimal on, valuation for battery storage, but this is consistent with the numbers we did with Oya, I think, up on the Seaway, one of those up there, they put battery storage in, so. It looks like a first year pilot payment on a 3.5 megawatt would be 26,809. I guess what we need to do, David, is probably share the pilot schedule with them for their review prior to loan review next week.
This would be, I'd say would be, yes, it would get out. While I was out today, we figured it out. We figured it out based on the other questions.
Okay.
But if
I mean-
that would come back, if you just said 26,809, that would put it around 70, a little higher than 7,500, a megawatt solar plus storage. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure.
Well, that's what the schedule in front of me shows in year one, then it declines each year after that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but we can share this schedule with them, can't we?
Yes.
Okay. We'll have to get that to you later this afternoon.
Let's double check that, and the application has sufficient background on the underlying parcels, we can find a more accurate pilot schedule that reflects land value, and then a combined number on production and storage.
Okay. Anything else from anyone on the project?
Probably ask a question for you. And these are kind of minor things, but the negative declaration has slightly different names than what are on the applications. I mean, it's pretty common sense that we're all talking about the same thing, but when this comes in front of the full board, I'd like to see the proper names on the application.
Yeah, we did go through two separate applications, of the financing agreement, the large army was two is now, that is on the large removal, so we'll be treating this as a large removal project. I say correct LLC, but now all large removals.
Please.
There's no removals two anymore.
No. That's fine.
Can you have a full, before the application is formally accepted, could you please submit a fully articulated ownership agreement?
We have, that was submitted to their application.
Is that going to remain static to closing and afterwards?
Yes.
Those,
Sorry,
Just, are you talking about the ownership, this little diagram that's on page 31
and they added a second investor, but same process as well, but less, loan financing.
Okay. Justin, that's on page 31 of the North application.
Okay. The question really drills down to, once this is constructed, can we expect an assignment request to flow through like the other 4, 5, 6 projects?
I don't believe so, we don't assign, I know there was some, I'm not sure if Genevieve is on.
Yeah, I can answer that. My understanding is they, again, actually, maintain the ownership of these sites and operate these sites. For tax equity financing purposes, I believe you disclosed, that if they go to tax equity, they would be owned by, but I will follow you on that to confirm, Justin.
Are these 2022 closings as well, just so we can have a sense of time?
Construction financing, yes, 2022.
IDA closing straight, is closing this year?
Yes.
Just want to get a sense of it because we've had several get approved and wait.
We wait 6 months, 8 months.
Well, this one's ready to go. National Grid is a very tight timeline. It's been a really tough project. Obviously, storage is not really an easy thing to permit one or get financed at this point. So we're really excited. I know National Grid's really excited. They contributed to, they got approvals from the PSC in May. So it was a big, win for National Grid and for us. And pretty cool to see this project impact communities but retailers as well. So we're excited to get that moving on.
Thanks.
I have no further questions. Is there anyone from anyone else? Well, thank you for your time. This is on the agenda for the loan review to send forward to the full board on our August 4th meeting. If there's nothing else, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we have some discussion items to talk about. And to let Jay get back to his things, I think Jay has some documents on some recent discussions on decommissioning.
Yeah, I do apologize. I had intended to give these out to everybody prior to the meeting. I did not. You have seen these previously. This is the final decommissioning plans. Did we lose? I see. Christine, I'll email these out, Christine, but you have received them in the past. These are the recommendations to municipalities in Jefferson County regarding solar project decommissioning plans. There's basically 7 recommendations that came from that ad hoc committee that we had formed way back in December and January. These are regarding the decommissioning plans and how to make sure that we are protecting the county's natural resources and making sure these projects are fully decommissioned in the proper way. The ad hoc committee had developed these based on decommissioning plans we had found out there across the state, and also guidelines from New York State Department of Ag and Markets. The update to these is that we have finally started getting them out through the Jefferson County Planning Department to the municipalities. I don't know if it's actually gone out yet, but last week we reviewed a memo from County Planning that would go out with these decommissioning plan or guidelines, decommissioning guidelines attached to them, with the idea that if there's any questions with the municipalities on these, they will refer back to either county planning or the Tug Hill Commission as the 2 agencies that do work directly with municipalities on their zoning regulations and so on. I also the July, column in Northern New York Business Magazine included an abbreviated form of these decommissioning guidelines, just to help get the information out to the municipalities as best as possible. So again, I do apologize, I intended to send these out this morning and then got sidetracked, but you have seen them probably several times, actually. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer your questions.
I would just add to this that the Jefferson County Farm Bureau, as part of the review of the Greens Corner Solar Project, was going to submit their recommendations, which are pretty much identical to this, to the state siting board. So it'll be interesting to see how the state siting board may or may not react to these recommendations. Yeah. I would also point out that on Greens Corners, both Jay and I attended the public hearing that the state held. I wasn't surprised that there was really no comments, but there were some written submissions. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to the written submissions and anything the town may do. Because the town council was there and he had some significant concerns about the decommissioning plan too, so. Anything else, Jay?
And actually along that line, I had the opportunity to talk to Andrew Buckley and, oh, good Lord. Anyways, Borelex representatives, and yeah, thank you, Darren Suarez. They both were there representing Borelex, and I have a good relationship with both of them. I talked to them extensively about decommissioning guidelines and the ad hoc committee's concerns about leaving infrastructure in the ground at the end of the decommissioning and so on. They were very interested in that. So it was a good conversation. What comes of it, who knows, but at least I had the opportunity to have an extensive conversation with both of them about the concerns here in Jefferson County, so.
And I had bigger concerns about all these, we've seen instances where small municipalities haven't been able to keep on track with Section 487 and respond and protect their rights. 30 years from now, you'll probably see 2 or 3 different town supervisors, a couple town clerks, and keeping up with the terms of the commission plans. Who's going to do it? Different attorneys. But, you know, monitoring these projects for 30 years is going to be a challenge for some of these smaller municipalities.
Even if they contracted, and that's one of the recommendations from the guidelines that we developed is, that they consider contracting with the local soil and water conservation district. But you're still gonna be in the same boat. 30 years from now, it's gonna be a new director at the soil and water conservation district. How well will the guidance be followed? So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'll be in Tahiti by then.
That's where your ashes are being spread.
Yeah, thank you all. No, those are going back to Lorraine.
Any questions on Jay's submission on decommissioning or decommissioning as a general subject? It's really a town issue, but I think it may come, if the town's unhappy with the decommissioning plan, they may be asking us to take different actions or delay action until they can get a decommissioning plan they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So, if there's none, utility scale projects. Currently, we have seen the first public hearing held by the Office of Renewable Energy siting on the Greens Corners project. That means it's on its way. I have no idea whether there's going to be anybody seeking party status. There is a residents group that's formed. Whether or not they're going to do anything, I don't know. So that'd probably be the first one that comes down the pipe. And I thought we should talk about how does this agency want to move forward with one of these large-scale projects, which will be the first one. You know, we have stubbed our toes a few times on community solars at the beginning, and I don't think we can afford to do that on one of these large-scale ones. So the question is, we know what the county's position is on full taxation on these. Bill, there's been no change in the policy.
None. Nor did I expect that.
So
The
the
only
question,
question we had is, what would the, rate, was the rate different or not, utility scale from the utility scale? From what I've seen, I think there's a lot of them around the state yet, there's a lot of other ideas that are dealing with some of these utilities, but it's still, I mean, it goes higher and lower, but it's still that same rate that we're looking at, I mean, for the utility scale, you know, and balance. And you got any ideas on utility scale yet, Justin?
Have a few in process. I don't know, the timing and the pace of whether those closed any in the last 6 months. I can double check. I know it's a larger wind, 2 larger solar down in the southern tier closed in the last 2.
Well, I think it was Chicago County just did a large one. They typically shoot, well, they're at the cover right now, but they sort of get the first agreements in there. And so they'll drop their pilot payment to accommodate the HC negotiated by the town, is what they're telling me. But it'll only go as low as 3,500 megawatt on the pilot side of things. And the one they negotiated actually came in a little bit over that. The town negotiated a higher payment that could over 5,600 megawatt project.
I think we have to be careful about thinking what other counties have. We're going to need to know what full taxation is to deal with the county's issue before you can start talking about that. I mean, naturally, an appraisal is going to have a range, so we will have a range of what full value will be. We have no idea right now what the state's valuation model will look like. You know, from what I've seen, the large-scale community values per megawatt are coming in a lower value per megawatt than community solar, okay? So they're gonna have a lower assessed valuation per megawatt, but I can't give you any idea what that may be as it relates to full taxation. So I think we have to be careful about suggesting a number per megawatt at this point. I would hope that if we get to knowing what full taxation is, we may be able to say to the county, okay, this is full taxation, but we'd like to start with a lump sum per megawatt. That may be acceptable or not, but until we get to the point of knowing what the state's final evaluation model looks like coming out of this lawsuit, it's going to be hard to even negotiate with any one of these large ones.
Yeah, we don't know anything about time of that lawsuit.
Still shows on the state website as being under TRO. So it looks to me like the last time I don't know if you read it, but it appears they didn't follow the rulemaking criteria correctly to establish it. So they probably have to go through the rulemaking process again. But
For that or readopt it, the process, which puts us into 2024 best case, but we'll see how that turns out. And the assessor still has discretion.
in the town line, the assessor used the valuation model even though there was a TRO and there were no grievances filed. So I just think unless there's a different opinion, I think we have to proceed extremely cautious if we get an application from a large scale developer. Okay, Tracy Solar is probably a few months behind Green's Corners. Tracy is the project in Orleans and Clayton. They have had their application deemed complete, which means it's, the next thing we'll see is their draft permit regulations. So that is 60 days, and that's probably within 30 days that have to be out. So then Tracy will be put in the loop to get to the public hearing part. So I would expect in the next several months, Tracy, was Tracy the one we met with a while ago? Okay. Tracy is probably several months away from this public hearing that just occurred with Greens Corners. So we're going to be faced with having, if they make an application, I should say, they're coming this way.
Yeah, they come in, until that changes, the assessor has discretion. So if we do something before the name changes, we have more discretion. By that, after that point, why is it locked into the pilot? Or the evaluation changes after that?
My concern is we can't have a pilot that exceeds what would normally be assessed under full taxation, so we have to know what full taxation is. You know, on this 3.5 megawatt one we just looked at, we're probably well above 50%. If you use the valuation model that was suspended, we're about 65 to 70% of market value, in my opinion, from what I've played with the numbers. But, so,
I don't look at how assessors are gonna treat the battery storage. There's always arguments that it's just equipment you can drive away on a truck, but they are taxable. A sense of scale on the battery costs and the physical manifestation, that's really what is being assessed.
you know, part of my concern on battery storage is they can only make so much power a day on a solar facility. Let's assume they're operating 100%. They're just putting some of it away to sell at a higher value time. So the question becomes, if they're truly going to get to an income approach to value, you know, cost for a battery is going to far exceed what the return is on it. And they said there was no incentives for battery storage, and I could have swore we were told there were incentives for battery storage. But
They have an incentive, because they're being paid by National Grid.
Right, that's, the payment, she says, is based on contract.
But I agree, you know, it's a big unknown what battery storage is going to be assessed at by the assessors. There's nothing else, I have nothing more on the utility scale projects. We talked briefly about the state assessment rules. They're still under TRO and we don't know what they'll be final. One last thing that wasn't on the agenda is Phelps Mills Solar. That's one that's on our list that we've been waiting to close, and David received an email where they're now talking about trying to negotiate with the town and not go through the IDA. David explained that they paid all our legal costs up to date. And my question is, if they decide to go that route, we can't stop them, but if that route fails,
Did we start the project? We start the project.
I'm not sure how, I mean, that's, they would have just process right? The town supervisor called me, because they had a call from this, Farrell, VP development, or, like, that we've not spoken before, we always have Scott Greenberg. And so I called Ben, he said, yeah, our project partner is telling us they can't make the finance work with the idea structure, I mean, everybody else can. But, so he thought, we go to town, see if we can do assessment method, get lower payment. So, well, that assessment payment, method is now on hold. And, the town, usually the town, when you go to the town will share the county, and like, they can't negotiate with the town. So it's risky. You still do something taxes without the idea either. So,
they might be. I guess my concern is after all the work we've been through, and yes, our legal fees have been paid, but staff time that's been invested in this is out the window. I think should we ask them to withdraw their application if they go that way and then make them start all over again with everything? I don't want them to go that way and have them fail and just come back, oh, okay, now we're gonna go your way and let's start where we left off. I think that's unacceptable.
yeah, I think that was really, I don't think close the deadline for that closing on that, we should start doing. I don't think we have to go there. You call Justin?
I don't,
I mean,
yeah, I agree with your analysis, Dave. They're gonna go to the town, realize the assessor really doesn't have a solution that is better than an IDA pilot. And the town can only negotiate for itself, but it's, maybe down to the total mill rate, so.
I mean, this goes back to what Justin brought up when he asked about, is it a 2022 closing or a 2023 closing? You know, this one has been, what, 6-8 months?
Longer than that, I think, because it was back in November, when I said, okay, we're gonna, that's, I guess when they go about to delay it, that's why I said, well, if we're gonna delay it without me, indefinitely, then you should, pay, or that, we have just invoice, we can use the data that. For sure.
What's the committee's desire? Do we want to recommend to the full board that if they, to request them to withdraw their application if they're going that way? I'll do that. Chris?
I'm not sure, so we want to go that route.
Okay. I'm just thinking right now, when you go back to the two Galoo projects, the amount of time we invested, the amount of money we invested, staff time, and all that stuff that went out the window, we have to start, these guys can't let stuff hang that long anymore. And maybe what we need to do is start talking about putting the closing, putting a time frame for closing on these projects. Just put
I
that
agree
picture.
with in the future doing something like that, and I'm just not sure about the current pending applications that we have. Have we contacted them to see what the status is at this point, or have we collected any fees to date?
Just their application fee. I talked to them last week before I sent the email. I followed all over the this week to see if they had any further discussions to it. So I was more information on the board meeting. You're right, I think, we don't really have a deadline to hold them to at this point. I think options are going to be for the future, future deadline. And or maybe a time, before we do final approval, they make it a pilot. I mean, do have a deadline. It's probably having a deadline. I've seen things online, with restaurants with having, something, probably $500,000, something like that, that's there that, should they not proceed with closing, stay with the agency.
Yeah. Justin, and other agencies you represent, do they put deadlines on closing?
Yeah, some include an outside date. We do it in a way in our project authorizing resolutions where we have an outside date for the appointment of company as agent. It's really tied to sales tax more than anything, but oftentimes we use that as a bit of a prod or a nudge, if you will, to get to a closing table if things are getting protracted, drawn out. In other words, we say, hey, listen, your agent status lapses with the IDA approval, let's get going. Other IDAs are taking in more significant deposits as a way to kind of clear out the long-range prospectors, if you will. That's something to think about as well.
Okay. Can we add this to next week's agenda? Is that possible to have a discussion?
Yeah.
Or should it go to the loan review for their considerations? Whichever.
We discussed it a little bit, but I think it's really a good discussion.
Dave, is there anything I've missed that we've talked about to bring up today?
Well, I say just going back a little further, we need to think, I guess, if we're comfortable with, dealing with battery storage, how much additional you want to add, or what's, you consider revisit that.
I'll see if I can find any guidance online on valuing them. I mean, I think until we have a policy change, we should treat them consistently with the other ones that we've done. So, That's my personal opinion.
All right, I'll follow up with, let's start this week. Maybe, have a little more in-depth discussion, with maybe basic policies. I know we're gonna try to calculate pumps. I gave you the, we didn't understand the rationale.
Is there anything else from, staff or the committee members?
No, I don't have anything.
I entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second,
Second?
all in favor, aye?
Second? Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Justin.
So,
Have a great one.
Thank you.